Well, let's turn first, though, to North Carolina. State still too close to call as well.
All right, let's take a look at that race, and you can see President Trump ahead just slightly in the state of North Carolina. This is a state that really has been in a holding pattern, it seems, since Election Day. News Nation's Bob Buckley watched that race closely with us on election night, and he joins us again tonight live from Greensboro. Bob.
You know, there hasn't been any talk of voting irregularities or potential lawsuits here in North Carolina. And remember, when we talk about the Associated Press calling a race or some news organization, that's valuable information for voters, but legally it's irrelevant. The state governments have to certify these elections. So here's where voting stands in North Carolina as of tonight. We had about 5.5 million votes cast in the state for this election, and largely due to COVID, we had 4 times as many cast in our 17-day early voting period as we had on Election Day. 3.6 million in early voting, and there were lines to wait in at a lot of the locations most days, and about 900,000 people voted on Election Day itself. Now, some of those votes are labeled as provisional, and that means they might have voted in the wrong voting site, or maybe there's an absentee ballot with your name on it already sent in. There are a little more than 40,000 of those, and many of those will be rejected. In 2016, roughly half of the provisional votes were not counted in the final tally, and the state has about 116,000 absentee votes that are what the state calls unaccounted for. Some of those were requested by people who wanted them as a backup in case COVID prevented them from voting in person on Election Day, and some will simply not be returned for whatever reason. Now, the State Board of Elections says they are not likely to update any vote totals in North Carolina until November 12th, the last day on which they'll accept ballots through the mail.
We'll continue these processes. We'll now look at the absentee ballots that were properly postmarked and determine if they can be counted. That's what we do in the canvass, and until we have all the votes uploaded as part of our canvass certification meeting, that's when we'll look to see what the vote margins are.
And as you mentioned at the beginning of the segment, the president leads Joe Biden by about 77,000 votes at the end of election night. We're likely to have, I would say, maybe a little more than 100,000 more votes counted. So Joe Biden would have to run up the margins big to overcome the president here in North Carolina. And the other big race here is the U.S. Senate race, in which the incumbent Thom Tillis and Cal Cunningham. Tillis leads by about 100,000, so Cunningham would have to nearly run the table to win. So it's not likely for either Joe Biden or Cal Cunningham to come back and win in North Carolina, but mathematically, they're still alive. Bob Buckley, News Nation, Greensboro.
Another state where we'll have to wait. Bob, thanks again. Good to see you.